Hello, Jody Hardesty with Empowered Heart Connections. Thank you for joining me today. One of the challenges that couples have are helping each other with their emotions without getting triggered or overwhelmed by our own emotional reaction to their emotional experiences. I noticed the other night, I joined a band, which has been super fun. And one of my bandmates suggested that we try this song called Just Breathe by Pearl Jam. And I was listening to the song, and it's a beautiful, touching song. And I scrolled down to the comments just to kind of see what people were responding. And it was so sad to see several of the comments were about people who had lost their children to either death or illness or some situation where the children had passed away. And I'm reading these comments and listening to this beautiful song, and tears are pouring down my face, and I'm just touched by these people's such sad experiences. And my husband looks at me and he touches my leg and says, "What's wrong? What can I do to help?" And it reminded me of how challenging it can be for many couples to be able to not only hear and validate each other's emotions, but to also be able to regulate your own emotional reaction when your partner is feeling distressed. And my husband and I have done a lot of work with helping each other with our emotions and not being triggered, or working on not being as triggered by each other's emotional reactions, and have learned a lot of skills over the years to say something like, "Hey, it seems like you're stressed out. Is there something I can do to help?" Rather than trying to fix it or repair it. As I've talked about in other videos, as it's difficult to not have that knee-jerk reaction to problem solve. But it's also really difficult to not react negatively in an emotional way yourself. And I see this a lot of times with couples. It's difficult, even if your partner's sad, to be able to come to them and support them and let them feel those emotions, because when our partners are in distress, it's dysregulating. Our nervous systems are like, "What's happening? My partner's in distress. How do I reboot? How do I get equilibrium again?" So I'm going to talk about today different techniques to recognize your own emotional state and how to kind of regulate and help yourself cope with those emotional reactions whenever your partner is either sad or hurting, or they're struggling, or they're in distress. And sometimes it activates our own nervous systems in a way that's not so helpful for having that connection time during those emotional reactions. So the first step is acknowledging that you're having an emotional reaction, which is hard for many of us to do in the first place, is really understanding where our emotions are coming from and what's happening with our bodies. Our go-to response is sometimes a reactive response whenever our partners are hurting. So sometimes we react negatively and get mad or get upset or get defensive. And it's important to recognize what the emotion is behind that's happening. And it takes a little digging to evaluate what's happening. Often it is because you're experiencing anxiety. It's like, "Oh, my partner's in distress. What do I do with this?" Or maybe you're a little upset because you don't know what to do. It's like, "Oh gosh, how do I band-aid this person who I love and I don't want them to hurt? This is dangerous. This situation is dangerous when my partner's feeling emotionally unstable. It means that I am unsafe." Because our partners represent a sense of safety for us. So when our partners are in distress, or are sad, or are crying, or emotional, it's difficult to really allow them to be in their place and not make it about ourselves, because that's what humans do, right? We have mirror neurons, so when I see you cry, it makes me want to cry, and vice versa. That we have these kind of natural biological tendencies to be triggered by each other emotionally. And my theory is it's designed to help us connect with each other, but whenever we have our own historical trauma or our own difficulty coping with our own emotions, it can cause disconnect in those relationship interactions instead of a connection. So again, first recognizing what is your own emotional state whenever your partner gets in distress, and noticing, is your heart rate increasing? Are your muscles tensing? Are you maybe not breathing, which happens a lot? It's surprising to me how often people hold their breath, myself included. I had to learn this the hard way, like, "Oh, hey, I'm feeling a little anxious because I'm holding my breath. My body thinks I'm dying." So making sure that you are breathing and what's happening with your breath. And those are all good cues that your nervous system is being activated, that your fight or flight mode might be happening right now, whenever that's happening, when your heart rate's racing and you're holding your breath, that your body's going, oh, gotta go into survival mode. How do we do this? And then really, once you've done that kind of assessment of what's happening in your body, is to really practice naming those feelings when they come up. Like, what is happening? Why is my heart racing? And sometimes you have to go to the thoughts that are happening before you can get to the feelings. Like, oh, okay, I'm really uncomfortable with my partner being in distress. Like maybe she's mad at me. Maybe I did something wrong, or maybe he's mad at me. Maybe I did something wrong. Maybe this is unrepairable. Maybe this is going to be the end of our relationship. So those kind of catastrophizing thoughts are good things to kind of check in with, to see, is that what's maybe causing this kind of fight or flight reaction in your body? And then what's behind those thoughts? Is it fear? Is it sadness? Is it your own distress about potentially having your partner leave? So recognizing and naming what those emotions are can be super helpful with helping you to move through those emotions, and also addressing those emotions with your partner whenever you're in a calm state, to say, hey, this is not your fault, and I'm not blaming you, and I'm not saying you can't have emotions. But when you have distressful emotions, it causes me to feel anxious or fearful, or it causes me to feel my own sad emotions. And sometimes I have a hard time responding well. So naming it and then talking about it can really be helpful, so that your partner's prepared for you to maybe not always have the best reaction at first. And that's something, again, you have to work through the uncomfortable reactions, and one of you being the bigger person in those moments, to get through to, okay, now we've been through that hard part, we're addressing it, we're working on it, let's work on repairing that interaction. Another technique you can use is a grounding technique. And this sounds cheesy, but our bodies believe what we tell them. So when you are feeling a little distressed, sometimes we kind of feel like we are mentally leaving our bodies. So we're trying to get out of that experience. Our bodies are like, get me out of this uncomfortable experience. I don't like it. So getting back to your breath and really noticing, breathing in usually to the count of 4, maybe holding to the count of 4 also, and then breathing out to the count of 6 or 7 if you can. It's called box breathing. It's a little bit different than box breathing, because you want to have a little bit longer breath out, because that helps your nervous system let you know that you're okay. But noticing what you're breathing is really being conscientious. Okay, breathing in and counting, and really just being aware of what that breath is like, noticing what it feels like to feel that breath coming in. Notice what it feels like to come out, and that can get you kind of back to regulating in your body. Also, really noticing what it feels like to put your feet on the floor and feel like you're rooted to the earth, that I am solid, I'm present, I'm safe, I'm okay. And being there in that moment in a solid place, so that you can kind of be more solid for whenever your partner is needing that, is needing your basically being able to be grounded for them whenever they're in distress. Checking in with all of your senses in that moment can be really helpful. So checking in with 5 things that you can see, or 4 things that you can touch, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, or 1 thing you can taste. And sometimes this requires you to have a glass of water, like go get a drink of water, because again, that is telling your nervous system and your fight or flight reaction that you're safe, and that your body is functioning properly, so your body doesn't go, oh, I'm dying. It can go back to, oh, we're doing eating things, we're doing drinking things, I'm okay, I can function. And again, just having something to physically touch can just even if it is a glass of water or a cup of tea or something, to have some sensory experience with your hands. Or even sometimes I recommend people go temporarily, shortly, grab an ice cube to get them in that feeling of being in their body. Like, okay, this is, I'm okay, I'm functioning, my body is functioning, I can feel the cold sensation. But it gets you really to be more present and aware in the moment, so that you are not joining your partner in that state of distress. So another thing is, when we are in a relationship with someone, especially with someone we love or care about, we tend to take on their emotions as if they are our own emotions, which is not helpful and can be really overwhelming because we don't have to take on our partner's emotions. And it can be really challenging to even notice when you're doing it. So recognize and creating boundaries around each other's emotional experience. So recognizing, hey, when my partner's in distress, it doesn't mean that I have to be in distress. And it doesn't mean that it's necessarily about me. And if it is about me, it doesn't necessarily mean it's the end of the world, right? So really recognizing, okay, my partner's feeling something. I'm noticing, I've already named the emotional reactions that I get whenever those emotions come up, and I'm going to create some emotional boundary. And sometimes it's helpful, again, I know it sounds cheesy, but again, our brains believe what we tell them, is to create an imaginary filter around yourself, or a bubble, or a filtery light can be helpful. Mine's a pink filtery light. But whatever color works for you. Again, I know it sounds cheesy, but it is giving your mind and your body a sense of safety and protection. Like, I don't have to absorb my partner's emotion. And remember, we're not doing anybody any favors by taking on our partner's emotions. We are much more beneficial to our partners when we can regulate our own emotions and help them with their emotions, to process their emotions, rather than escalating things with our own emotions as well. And again, I know it's easier said than done. It takes a lot of work. Staying really mindful when you're in these moments can be helpful. Again, noticing, oh, okay, I'm noticing this is making me anxious. My partner's crying right now, and I'm not sure what to do with this. How do I offer some support in a way that's helpful and not get dysregulated myself? And checking in with being mindful again of your breath, and then noticing before you respond, am I even listening to this person? Am I listening to my partner? Am I able to hear what they're saying, and am I able to hear what they're needing from me? Or am I thinking about what I need to say next before they're talking, or while they're talking to me? And pause before you respond. This is, no matter what situation you're in, if you can think before you talk, and I know I've struggled with this too. It's hard, but it takes practice. Just giving yourself a moment before you spit something out in response to your partner is to just take a deep breath. Okay, what can I say in this moment? And usually, if you are able to say or empathize with their emotions, again, relentless empathy, you can move more quickly through the painful part of this discussion, right? Because I see that you are hurting right now, and this is really hard. I get it. What can I do to help? Right? So those are better responses than, as we've talked about in some other videos, problem solving and trying to fix the problem for them. And accept that this moment is okay, that when your partner is feeling an emotion, it's normal, it's natural. We all have emotions, and if we don't express them, they come out sideways. So it's better to be able to address them in a loving and neutral way in those moments so that they can pass. Like, the only way through emotions is to let them be so they can pass. Some self-soothing techniques can be helpful too, especially if you're having a real hard time just getting regulated and not getting distressed whenever your partner is in distress or hurting. Giving yourself some self-compassion, like, okay, I'm recognizing I'm having a real hard time right now. And giving yourself in your thoughts in this moment, giving myself permission to feel what I need to feel, and I'm going to breathe through it, and I'm still going to be able to be mindful, and I'm going to pause about what I'm saying. Also doing some progressive muscle relaxation, like just noticing in the moment. Even when you're listening to your partner, you can do this. Just kind of, noticing what it feels like in your toes, to relax your toes and work your way all the way up to your head. And then some mantras. I know some people feel like mantras are also kind of a cliche, but again, your brain believes what you tell it. So if you're saying to yourself, oh my God, my partner's in distress, what am I going to do? Right? That really activates your nervous system. So recognizing what those thoughts are and shifting it to, I can stay calm and steady. I'm safe. I can be okay even when my partner's in distress. I can stay grounded. I can get through this. I'll be okay. This is just a moment in time. The other thing that can be helpful is getting a little movement, and sometimes this requires taking a break from the conversation. Is if you can in the moment, going, I really want to be here for you, and I'll be right back. I just need a moment to kind of catch my breath, I'll be right back. Or even you can just have a bathroom excuse. Bathroom's always a great excuse if you need to take a break. Nobody can argue with that. But it's just having some subtle movements, and even if you need to kind of walk around a little bit, but you can also just kind of move your shoulders in the moment and just try to kind of be subtly moving your body so that again you can get reacquainted with your body and get out of that emotional state. Stretching, and again, if all else fails, it's okay to take a break and walk away. The other piece is as I mentioned, those mirror neurons that we have, those neurons that go, well, you're feeling this way, I'm feeling this way, that you can mirror calmness for your partner, speaking softly, being calm, maintaining eye contact. And again, not intense eye contact, but you can look away every once in a while, but just letting them know that you're there. Having a calm demeanor can help their nervous system know that it's okay to regulate and be calm. Breathing together, if your partner is open to that, is, hey, will you just breathe with me for a minute? I just really feel like we need to take some deep breaths. And just calming them by mirroring for them that you're calm and collected and that they can be calm and collected too. And if you have a good relationship and you feel comfortable with physical contact with each other, it's a good time to reach out and, like my husband did, to touch my knee or offer to give a hug or just have some gentle touch that is reassuring to them that, hey, I'm here for you. And reminding yourself that my role is to empathize in this moment. It doesn't matter what the outcome is. Everything will be okay. It will work out. But my goal, again, is to go to empathy so that I can be there with this person in this moment. And then reflecting afterwards about, how that went. What happened for you? How was it to maybe do some different techniques and to get mindful and to get integrated into your own body and to empathize with your partner? So it can be really helpful to kind of talk to your partner about that process as well as, hey, what was it like for you in this moment? And usually a little later after the distress has passed, it can be helpful to have this conversation. Was it helpful that we had this interaction, and what can I do differently in the future? What was helpful? And then, as always, know when to walk away. If you're not able to regulate your emotions, it's okay to say, I'm so sorry. I really need to just take a break here. I'm having a hard time, and I really want to hear you, but I just need a minute. Again, always good to use the bathroom excuse if your partner's not real good at handling you taking a break at first while you're getting used to these techniques. But it's definitely necessary to take a break if you're feeling like you're too dysregulated in order to really connect with your partner. It is possible, it's doable. I know it's challenging to kind of harness your own emotions, but this is all a part of the journey. And I can tell you, when you get to that place where you're like, oh, I see what's happening here. My body is trying to take me for a little emotional roller coaster ride. It's much easier to find a way to come back to your partner and reconnect. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this has been helpful for you all. And please like and subscribe if this is a helpful video for you. And thank you so much for watching.